We'll Meet Again. Written by Lily Baxter and read by Penelope Freeman. The moral right of the author has been asserted. Chapter 1. April 1939. The stormy deck of the cross-channel paddle steamer was deserted, except for a single figure leaning over the ship's rail, his outline blurred by mist and spray. For a moment, Meg thought she was seeing a ghost, a phantom passenger doomed to travel the sea forever, like the Flying Dutchman. But then he sneezed and reached into his pocket for a handkerchief. Vaguely disappointed that she had been robbed of a spiffing yarn with which to amuse her sister Adele, she hesitated at the top of the companionway, taking deep breaths of the damp, salt-laden air. The weather had been fine when they left St. Peter Port Harbour, but the wind had strengthened as the vessel negotiated the turbulent currents of the Alderney race. The sea was now the colour of gunmetal, and it was impossible to tell where the water ended and the sky began. It was not the sort of day to promenade on deck, but if she'd remained in the cramped confines of the cabin, ministering to Addie for a moment longer, she too might have succumbed to the rigours of seasickness. Her reluctant patient had eventually begged to be left alone for a while, and Meg had promised to be back soon. She had considered stopping in the saloon for a cup of tea and a bite to eat, but the snatches of conversation she overheard as she passed between the tables were fraught with anxiety regarding the political situation in Europe. The threat of war with Germany was something she would rather forget, for the time being at least. This journey was the start of a fortnight's holiday for herself and Adele. They would be staying with their favourite aunt and uncle in Oxford, and one of the highlights of the trip was an invitation to the May ball with their elder brother David. Meg had been looking forward to it for weeks. A particularly spiteful gust of wind whipped her long blonde hair into a tangled mass, and she brushed a strand from her eyes. She knew that the sensible course was retreat to the comfort of the saloon, but the hint of danger offered by the stormy sea was a definite challenge, and she was not about to admit defeat. Clinging to the handrail, she could not resist a second look at the mysterious stranger, who seemed oblivious to the fact that he was getting soaked by the clouds of spray. He appeared to be staring into the bow waves, lost in a world of his own. He must, Meg thought, have something extremely pressing on his mind, or he would have realised that this was not the safest place to be. She took a tentative step forward, just as the vessel hit a trough between the waves. Her feet skidded on the wet planking, and she found herself flying across the deck. "Look out!" she cried, in an attempt to warn the man for whom she was heading, helplessly and at breakneck speed. He turned just in time to catch her before she pitched headlong over the rails into the turbulent water. He set her back on her feet. "That was a near one. Are you okay?"
"Yes, I think so. Or at least I will be when my heart stops pounding. I didn't realise it was so rough, or I'd have stayed below."
She eyed him curiously.
"I know you, don't I? You're Gerald Lefebvre."
He met her gaze with a smile of slowly dawning recognition.
"Meg Colivet? Good Lord. It must be 4 years or more since I last saw you. You were just a kid then, with the pigtails and freckles."
She pulled a face.
"Don't remind me. You and David were always teasing me. You were really mean to me then. But I forgive you."
"How is David? Haven't seen him for ages."
"Well, I think. He's not the best correspondent in the world, but I'm on my way to see him now."
"Remember me to him. We had some great times when we were younger."
"You were both mean to me," Meg said, smiling. "You wouldn't let me join in your games. You said I was a little pest."
He grinned. "I wouldn't say that now. You're a very attractive young lady, but one with suicidal tendencies, I suspect. Coming out on deck in this weather wasn't perhaps the most sensible thing to do."
Another large wave combined with a cross-current made the ship yaw, and Meg had to clutch his arm in order to save herself from falling.
"I needed some fresh air,"
she was forced to shout in order to make herself heard above the din of the water plashing from the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?